Quarterback battles are going on all over the country right now. We do not use the word controversy when referring to a position battle because it's not controversial to have competition. It's just that. It's competition. And it's sometimes a good thing. In fact, most times it's a good thing if you have, in fact, all the times, it's a good thing if you have multiple players who are good enough to compete for a starting position. And then, as I start to go down this list, let's keep in mind, just in the back somewhere, let's keep in mind, spring will end. The transfer portal will open, and some of these names may move on to greener pastures or another school where they have a chance to start. But as for now, what are we looking at? We're looking at Bama. We got Ty Simpson up there. We got Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe you've seen. He started last year for them against, I think, A&M in the Arkansas game, I think. Played significantly. You haven't seen as much of Ty Simpson. Now, I'll give you my feel on some of these. This is just a guess. My feel is Ty Simpson ends up winning this job. That goes on nothing that I have heard from anyone inside that program. So you take that with whatever you want to take it with. I don't think either has been mistake-free enough to where we can assume that this job is won. And I always go back to the whole Blake Barnett, Jalen Hurts protocol with Nick Saban choosing starting quarterbacks. And that is Blake Barnett, we went all spring and all summer and all fall, and he was always listed 1 on anyone's guess at what the depth chart was going to look like. Sure enough, it comes time for him to open. They play USC that year, and Blake Barnett starts. And I have rarely seen a deer in my headlights with wider eyes than Blake Barnett had. Then Jalen Hurts came in. Fumbled his first snap, mind you, and still ended up taking the job by the throat, and we never looked back. So the point there was everything you said over those previous 5 months was rendered moot over a couple of series. And that's how this stuff can change. So it's really pointless to try and predict that stuff in April. But the point is with Alabama, they've got obviously a good enough team to where the guy that makes the fewest mistakes is probably the one that wins the job. And whichever one of those two wins the job is probably going to be good enough for them to win a title. What did you say, Josh? A title? Yeah. So I'm looking through the stat pack today. Ryan McGrady does a phenomenal job with that. I'm trying to delay as I pull that stat up right now. So the last 6 times that Bama's won the SEC, they have done so with a first-year starter at quarterback. Half a dozen. The last half dozen times they've won the SEC, it's been with a first-year starter. So I'm telling you that because it's April, May, June, about July, preview magazine season will be upon you. And those preview magazine seasons will tell you it's a potential weakness for Alabama that they don't have experience at quarterback. And I'm just telling you what the numbers say. That's a paper popper. Last half dozen SEC titles they've won, it's been with a first-year starter. They don't care. It's never mattered to them. What about Ohio State? I got Kyle McCord battling up here against Devin Brown. There is some news out of Columbus. If you missed it, Devin Brown had a little minor procedure done on one of the fingers of his throwing hand. This is pretty recent. This is, I think, within the last week. Anyway, I say all that to say he is not going to participate in the spring game. I am not a believer that spring games are the best mirror image of a game-like atmosphere, but I don't discount the impact of playing in front of a big crowd and therefore playing on a little bit bigger stage. It's the closest stage that we have to mimicking a regular season game. I would say what they do in practices leading up and the scrimmages that are closed leading up, that, in terms of raw competition, mirrors what you see in the regular season a lot more. But it does matter what guys do when the lights are a little bit brighter. So Kyle McCord's going to get his shot in the spring game, and he's going to get a shot to play in front of a big crowd. He's going to get a shot to, go against what? You really will not have another guy that's on the field that's competing for the starting job. Close competition. It's been a close competition all spring. That's why we're talking about it. Ryan Day has said exactly what you would expect him to, which is we're not there yet. But yet I look over on the right side of the screen or left, depending on if you're me or if you're you watching at home, and I'm looking at the 2023 Heisman Trophy odds. Imagine being a head coach, by the way, where you're trying to keep your guys grounded, and you're installing in some cases, and you're trying to get a guy ready to play for the first time ever as a starter, and he is the 5th highest odds to win the Heisman. That means nothing, obviously. That's just a market. That's just a betting market. That's an odds market, yet it's still always fun. Michael Penix, just out of nowhere, Michael Penix now, the 2nd Heisman odds frontrunner. Who saw that coming? Whomst amongst us saw that coming a year ago? So we got that. Down in Athens, we got a quarterback battle that's going on. Really, I would say a two-way battle, but there are three names that I'm going to mention. Carson Beck, Brock Vandagriff, Gunnar Stockton. Beck and Vandagriff are the two that have split most of the first-team reps throughout spring. There is nothing, hardly, that I could picture happening in that G-Day game, which is this weekend, that would decide this quarterback battle. And even if it did, Kirby Smart would be foolish to announce that it had been decided. And Kirby Smart is many things, but foolish not one of them. So that's not going to happen. I think that it's an interesting thing when you tie it into the fact that Mike Bobo is the new offensive coordinator, but is not someone who came in from outside. There, I think, was a very intentional reason why Kirby didn't take long to promote Mike Bobo from within, because he knew he was going to have a new starter at quarterback one way or the other this fall, and he needed someone with familiarity to the system to put in the place that was vacated by Todd Monken, outgoing offensive coordinator. Continuity, familiarity, and also the knowledge that we're going to play lights-out defense. I don't need Caleb Williams. I don't need someone to do what he does. Carson Beck was the odds-on front runner kind of going into spring. And we'll see how it shakes out. You start to get a lot more information after spring's over. People are a little bit looser. You undo the tie a little bit. You can lean back. You got some summer to get ready for fall camp. And I'll be interested to see if the sentiment sounds the same. One thing Vandagriff has is he has the mobility. And you make of that what you will, because ultimately it's the same thing it comes down to in every competition. Whichever one makes the fewest mistakes, especially, again, when you play the style of ball they play, whichever one makes the fewest mistakes, that's the one that will ultimately be trusted. I don't think it's close to decided, and that's one, therefore, to watch. That's this Saturday. That G-Day game's this Saturday. At Notre Dame, this was a late edition. I was reading some of the work over on Irish Illustrated earlier today. Some interesting words about Tyler Buchner. A lot of you who've been listening to the show throughout spring may say, you mean Sam Hartman, right? I don't. I think Sam Hartman is still the front runner to win the job. But let's talk about Tyler Buchner for a second. Buchner is a guy very highly rated a couple of cycles ago. He came in, and this time last year, I think it was Prister. I'm 95% sure it was him over on Irish Illustrated that wrote about this earlier today. He was talking about how this time last year, there was a contingent of the Notre Dame beat that tried to sell you on the idea that Tyler Buchner's arrived. He's ready. His accuracy and decision-making are there. He is a starting caliber quarterback. Now, that was never true, as was pointed out in the article I read. That was never true. Some people were trying to wish-cast it into existence. In the weather world, there are a lot of younger meteorologists in the South where they don't get to see snow a lot, and therefore they'll just try and wish it into existence. It's called wish-casting. I always loved them because I always wanted to see snow when I was a kid. So science or not, I loved those guys and girls. Well, some people tried to wish-cast Tyler Buchner into being a surefire starter last year. He wasn't. Ironically, now that they brought in someone via the transfer portal named Sam Hartman from Wake Forest, who everyone, me included, just locks into the starting position, sounds like Buchner is now playing higher caliber football. Sounds like, this is just word on the street, that he's outperformed Sam Hartman a few times when he's been able to be observed, when they've been in a live scrimmage environment. Now, what does that mean? I think it should not go without saying that there's a lot more familiarity on Buchner's side. He's been in the system longer, so he knows the players longer. Sam Hartman just got there like 10 minutes ago. I still ultimately think, yes, it will be Sam Hartman's job. At the very least, it's got to be refreshing for Marcus Freeman and his staff to look around and say, look at Tyler Buchner doing exactly what we hoped he would do. And that's coming from someone in me who thought he may explore the transfer portal, because I thought that's how much of a lock Sam Hartman would have on this job. Who knows how it turns out, but those are the quarterback battles I've got my eye on as these spring games start to approach.